Hola, bienvenidos a esta sesión de IT Masters en la que vamos a platicar de chatbots.
¿Qué?
No.
No, guácala.
No, perdón. A nadie le gustan los chatbots. ¿A quién le gustan los chatbots? A nadie. No, hoy vamos a platicar sobre el futuro de las plataformas conversacionales con inteligencia artificial. Y para ello contaremos con la experiencia de un cliente real, nada menos y nada más que la directora de marketing de Public Service Credit Union. Hi, Nadine, and welcome to this session.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited to talk to you about this new conversational platform that you just put together in Public Service Credit Union. And why don't we start from the beginning? What was the challenge that you were facing that made you look for a solution as a conversational platform with artificial intelligence?
Sure. So we actually, I was relatively new to our call center, and we were finding that we had a lot of redundant calls and a lot of time spent with our current agents answering kind of the same things. And that left kind of a gap in what we were able to do to bring income in, right? They were tied up with so many of the same repetitive questions that they couldn't have any sort of income producing conversations. Can we open a new account for somebody? Can we cross-sell something? So we wanted to find a way where we can streamline or automate any of those redundant questions and find more time for our agents to potentially change their culture to be a little bit more sales driven.
Okay. It's normally fixed with a chatbot, but people don't really like chatbots. So what's the difference here? What made you choose Core?
So, I mean, we did go through a lot of different vendor demos, and Core ultimately had everything we wanted in terms of out-of-the-box solutions. It's true, a lot of people right off the bat don't like chatbots, but I find the more you can anticipate their needs, the more likely they are to still be okay with the fact that it's a automated solution helping them, a robot helping them. And they kind of get open-minded if you're able to successfully anticipate their needs.
Just to get a sense of the size of the problem, how many clients do you have to deal with in a daily basis?
So we have about 34,000 members across the U.S., mostly in Michigan, and we typically receive about 8,000 to 10,000 calls a month, and our chat volume is I want to say about 3,000 chats a month.
Well, Nadine, you told me that other platforms, other vendors approach you with their offers, and I guess they made some demos or business cases. Why did you choose Core?
So a couple of different reasons. First and foremost, we really liked all of the out-of-the-box solutions. It seemed like Core really had a grasp on the financial industry. And so there were a lot of right out-of-the-box solutions that we were able to implement and work with almost immediately. Another thing too is Core was, in terms of what they were offering in their workbench, their back-end platform, it was awesome. We were worried almost, that it was too good to be true. They worked with a lot of bigger institutions. And so as a credit union, we weren't sure that we were going to be able to afford it. And they were really willing to work with us and work with our Core and really get the integration cost down for us, and just kind of show us proof of concept in order to move forward and show us that we can do this. We can work with, bigger players.
before adopting Core, you had to do a lot of change management. I mean, to work with all the people in the contact center. And by the way, how many people, how many agents do you work with?
So we have 8 agents currently that handles all of our call volume, all of our chats that come in, Facebook messages, all of that. So there's 8 agents across our 34,000 members.
That's a very low number to handle so many
a lot of
calls.
volume, not very many agents, and it leaves us, not a lot of flexibility, right? If someone calls off, we're kind of in a rough spot.
And that's why you needed so urgently to automate these conversations, I guess. People scared that they could be fired or removed.
That was a huge talking point. So like I said, we restructured a lot of what we were doing based around a digital experience department. And when that was done, I inherited this call center, and they were, off the bat, we told them our plans, and they were worried, is this going to affect our jobs? And that was absolutely, not the case. That had to definitely be set in stone for them. The purpose of adding this agent is not to replace any of them. It's just to free up their time so that we can use it for a little bit, more sales-driven tasks. There wasn't a lot of room for cross-selling because we did have to kind of get through the queue quickly, and we only had 8 agents, and most days we actually only had 6 to 7 on any given day. So we really had to make sure that we had something in place to assist with that.
Okay, you mentioned that Core has a lot of expertise already into the tool, the platform, the communication platform. So I guess it was an easy implementation, was it?
Yeah, I mean, they did most of the heavy lifting there. Something that we did as a call center, and this was more, to be proactive. We had been monitoring what some of our most redundant calls were. We have a call tracking now that we categorize each of our calls that come in. So we were able to really see what was asked the most frequently and have those intents, written and rewritten in a way that the assistant would be able to, translate those answers effectively.
So it was like what, like a month, a couple of months?
The chat agent was implemented first, and we thought that would be just the easiest transition. And I want to say the chat agent was implemented within 2 to 3 months, and that's including the integration. And then we moved forward with online banking, including the chat agent in our online and mobile banking platforms, which took another, 2 to 3 months. And then we actually just rolled it out on the phones in July. So that one took a little bit longer. And that's, while the actual agent was ready, there was a lot that we needed to, from a call center standpoint, that we needed to tweak a little bit in our answers so that it would accommodate the way our particular members would ask for something. Because the way our members will ask something on the phone is completely different than the way they ask for something in chat. So we had to make sure that was accounted for, and that meant going through every intent. And they tirelessly worked with us on that to make sure it was perfect.
And I guess this keeps learning and learning and learning because of the artificial intelligence that it's embedded into the tool.
Yeah, absolutely. Every day it's learning. And something I love that they do on our behalf is that they go through the intents that didn't work for whatever reason, and on our weekly sync, they're able to kind of give different ideas for how we can rectify that, and it's constantly improving the intent success rate.
Even if it's like a very new implementation for you guys, because you said it was set up in July. you already have some metrics that you can share with us in terms of business costs or improvements in client customer experience, whatever your metrics are?
Yeah, so actually I'm very proud of this number. I know earlier I said we get about 8,000 to 10,000 calls a month. That is down to about 6,000 calls a month. So for me, that's an agent and a half. That's a person and a half that is there every single day without fail. That's a 25% reduction in our call volume. And we were able to implement some outbound calling and some, scripts to try to drive some of our existing promotions to these members that we would have never had the time to do before. So our call volume has definitely gone down, and we are so proud at how fast that happened.
And have you seen improvements in customer acquisition?
We don't really use the tool to necessarily go and seek out new customers quite yet, but we have been able to utilize the processes they have in place and the call reduction to get our agents to participate in our existing promotion, which is all about driving new membership, all about referrals, and ask somebody to refer a friend. And in doing so, they're able to send them, a link to our online application, and our artificial agent can actually give those people the status of their applications that opened an account. So indirectly, it does help. We just haven't done anything, to directly aid in new customers. Not yet. It's on the roadmap.
Okay. So what you're describing, it sounds like you're getting into an omni-channel environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how easy is that to implement? Because everybody talks about omni-channel, but I guess it has a lot of tricks and it's not a very, very straight road.
So no, it's certainly not a straight growth. You really have to have a good grasp of the brand guidelines and, what you want to really remain consistent across all of those channels. And you have to be willing to get in the nitty gritty of the intents that you're writing out and the questions and answers.
You said that you had to change some of the operational processes in order to get core up and running before the implementation. What was the worst part, if there's a worst part of it?
I would say the most difficult part is not necessarily the processes that we were changing, but getting the buy-in, because we had to restructure the departments. So we essentially merged together what was the marketing department and what is electronic, essentially customer support. So anything that the member touches that's not physically in a branch. And we changed a lot. We moved around a lot of people to make it work. And so to get the buy-in that we were doing this for kind of a bigger reason, a bigger strategic goal, that was the hardest thing to do.
One of my last questions is the return on investment already there? Do you think?
100%.
Oh, really?
Yes, absolutely. Without a doubt, we know we made the right choice. Just again, the reduction in call volume right off the bat is incredible to me. We're able to make changes right away and show proof of concept right away. And while I know it's not fully developed yet because it's a constant learning process, we know without a doubt that it's only going to get better because they've kind of shown us that they're willing to continuously work with us. And again, the proof is in the numbers, right? We have 2,000 less calls a month out of only 8,000 calls in a given month. That's a huge chunk of calls that right off the bat it's starting to really help us with.
Thank you very much, Nadine. I don't know if you want to add something I didn't ask you that you think it's important for our attendees to know about your experience, about something like an advice that you would like them to remember?
You know, my biggest piece of advice would be, once you are working through those first set of intents, make sure that you're working through them in a way that they can be translated via text, and they can be translated via phone call. Something we learned kind of the hard way is that our members just ask in a completely different tone, in a different way, using different verbiage for the same things. So we really had to make sure to spend a lot of time perfecting that before it was implemented, so that when it was implemented, it gave a positive experience for the member. If we would have implemented it before it was ready, we right off the bat would not have had our members buy in, but it certainly helped that they worked with us very intensely to make sure that first phone call was going to go the right way.
Okay, well, very good advice. And thank you very much, Nadine, for sharing your experience. I think this is very, very valuable for attendees to listen from a real customer. And you did great. Thank you very much for sharing with us. Okay, thank you, and good luck, and my compliments.
Gracias, Mónica, y gracias a Nadine por esta conversación. Muy interesante hablar con un cliente, hablar sobre esta solución. Vamos a pasar ya a la parte de la sesión de preguntas y respuestas. Claro que podemos hablar más con Nadine y preguntarle más sobre su caso de éxito. Así que invitarlos a todos ustedes a que, por favor, en la sección de preguntas y respuestas, si ustedes tienen alguna duda, algún comentario, pues pueden escribirlo ahí, y con mucho gusto. Me presento, soy Francisco Iglesias, buenos días, soy director editorial de NetMedia, y quiero incorporar a esta conversación, para que también sigamos hablando de estas preguntas y sigamos hablando de este caso de éxito, voy a incorporar a 3 personas más. Estaremos hablando con Alejandro Castrejón, socio fundador de SmartForce, con Daniel García, gerente de canales para América Latina de SmartForce, y con Peter Verby, VP Product Management Financial Services at core.ai. Y bueno, pues eso es justamente lo que estaremos hablando. Y para empezar, Alejandro, buenos días. Pues en principio te preguntaría un poco sobre cuáles son, ¿no? Platícanos un poco sobre SmartForce y cuáles son los clientes que tienen en América Latina, cómo se está trabajando.
Bueno, gracias. SmartForce nace justamente como una empresa que se quiere enfocar a todo el tema de transformación digital. Está muy choteado el tema, desgraciadamente, porque ahora implementas algún sistema que llaman transformación digital. Lo que nosotros nos enfocamos es usar nuevas tecnologías para cambiar cómo están haciendo los procesos las empresas, y justamente complementar la plataforma de sistemas que ya tienen con estos procesos de automatización que te permiten completamente vincular a tu cliente con tu back office sin que haya una persona en medio, y entonces meter estas tecnologías que te permiten hacer todo este tipo de automatizaciones, meter estos asistentes digitales ya con componentes de inteligencia artificial que van más allá, como bien decía Mónica al principio, de lo que es un chatbot, ¿no? Todo el mundo estamos muy frustrados ahora con el tema de los chatbots y con todo lo que nos dejó la pandemia, pero ya estas plataformas son inteligentes y te permiten tener una conversación prácticamente humana. Entonces, la idea es que se vuelvan verdaderos asistentes digitales para poder lograr esas automatizaciones, esa atención al cliente, ese quitarle esos procesos que no agregan valor a las posiciones de las personas, y que las personas se puedan dedicar a funciones que agregan más valor a su puesto.
Perfecto, muchas gracias, Alejandro. Recordarles, ustedes pueden ahí poner preguntas a cualquiera de nuestros panelistas. Si quieren también para Nadine hablar de su caso de éxito, también adelante. Las pueden poner en inglés o en español, las vamos a traducir y ya con eso tenemos la respuesta. Daniel, es tu turno de preguntarte cuál es el diferenciador que tiene la plataforma que ustedes utilizan. ¿Qué es lo que los hace distintos?
Buenísimo, muy buena pregunta, Francisco. Mira, como plataforma, primero mencionarles que nosotros como Core nacimos o fuimos desarrollados para realmente brindar herramientas o mejor dicho, programas enfocados a la conversación, ¿no? Basados con inteligencia artificial. Eso es realmente nuestro core, el core de core. Y Y pues en la evolución que hemos tenido, principalmente nosotros tenemos una patente de 3 modelos de interpretación del lenguaje natural. Esas 3 modelos son únicos que tenemos ante los competidores, somos los únicos que lo pueden trabajar de esa manera. Y esto nos ha permitido pues que realmente entendamos correctamente lo que el usuario nos está solicitando, la intención real del por qué está viniendo con nosotros. Estos 3 modelos, los digo muy rápido, es Machine Learning, que la mayoría de las plataformas que utilizan inteligencia artificial la conocen y la utilizan, pero este modelo al final se basa en histórico, ¿no? En cómo realmente estoy interactuando y conforme voy interactuando más, voy aprendiendo. Y esto es un buen método para poder interpretar correctamente. Sin embargo, nosotros podemos meter otros 2 modelos más en el momento que un usuario nos escribe. El segundo es Fundamental Meaning y el tercero es Knowledge Graph. Estos 3 modelos permiten que cada vez que un usuario nos escribe algo, hagan entre los 3 una valoración y digan, ¿sabes qué? Lo que el usuario nos está pidiendo es esto, ¿vale? Hacen una puntuación y realmente pues con eso encuentran la respuesta adecuada, ¿vale? Primero yo creo que podría decir que estos 3 modelos nos ayudan a evolucionar mucho más rápido, que la plataforma pueda interpretar correctamente. Que esa es una de las preguntas que seguimos nos hacen. ¿Qué tan rápido puede aprender nuestra plataforma o su plataforma? Y para nosotros siempre es, desde el día 1, nuestra plataforma está buscando la mejor manera de interpretar lo que el usuario nos está solicitando, ¿vale? El segundo punto, yo considero que va más relacionado hacia el real, decirlo tal cual, real multichannel, ¿no? Muchas veces se habla de poder llevar una experiencia multicanal, pero creemos que el ser multicanal va relacionado a que, por ejemplo, yo pueda tener acceso a WhatsApp o que yo pueda tener acceso a web o que lo pueda tener acceso en voz. Para nosotros el tema de multicanal va relacionado a que entre los diferentes canales se puedan comunicar los usuarios, pero que también tenga una continuidad en estos canales. Por ejemplo, si yo ahorita inicio una llamada y estoy solicitando un apoyo y por cualquier razón puede ser que la llamada se me caiga, yo le puedo decir, ¿sabes qué? Si se cae la llamada, por favor, mándame WhatsApp y continuemos por ese lado, por ese canal. Y lo que va a hacer mi plataforma es identificar el número que tienes registrado y decir, oye, nada más valídame si tu terminación es del 2469, nada más para continuar esa comunicación. Yo le confirmo y cualquier cosa que suceda en la llamada, la comunicación la puedo llevar en ese otro canal, ¿vale? O incluso procesos, ¿no? Hay procesos que a lo mejor necesitas digitalizar o solicitar cierta información y lo puedo llevar en un canal que sea más adaptable para el usuario. Eso es lo que nosotros conocemos realmente como un real multichannel, donde puedas utilizar los canales para pues optimizar la experiencia, ¿vale? Y pues Nadine dijo algo muy, muy cierto. Algo que tiene nuestra plataforma como diferenciador es cómo llevo esto al tema de chat, ¿no? De mensajería, que hoy se utiliza muy común en las diferentes empresas, pero realmente lo que nos vuelve diferentes es cómo esta misma experiencia la llevo a voz, ¿vale? Entonces, nosotros vamos a poder resolver lo que hoy se conoce como el voice bot y el tema de chatbot a través de nuestra plataforma. Y todo unificado en una misma plataforma que es una plataforma no code, low code, con la capacidad de integrarse con más de 35 aplicaciones nativas. Tiene una Open API también que se puede conectar a otras aplicaciones y a su vez puede interpretar en más de 100 idiomas. Así que creemos que con nuestra plataforma realmente estamos siendo disruptivos en el mercado y estamos logrando hacer cosas realmente diferentes, ¿no? Y que la imaginación sea lo que nos lleva a desarrollar proyectos diferentes.
Gracias, Daniel. Es el turno de Peter. Peter, good morning. And I will ask you about why automate the customer service process? Why is necessary to do that?
Okay, so thanks for having me. So when you look at the customer service process, the customers are getting used to being able to use their voice in so many different ways outside of banking. So if you look at whether it's their ordering, their shopping, on Amazon, or it could be that they are holding their remote control on their computer, or sorry, on their TV, and they're telling the TV which shows that they want to watch. So AI and conversational AI has gone into all these different areas. And so banking is one of those next logical places that customers are expecting it. And so when you, a good conversational AI assistant can be available 24/7. So your customers are gonna want to bank on their time, not necessarily on the bank's time. So making sure that you have a virtual assistant that is available to help them 24/7 in the channel of their choice. So Bank Assist can actually run in any, up to 37 different channels. But right now we have it running in WhatsApp, we have it running in SMS, it's in the IVR or the kind of voice channel for calls coming in. We've got it in the web channel, we've got it in the mobile channel. It's also very easy to add into Facebook Messenger and some of these other messenger services. So, and what's nice is one assistant runs in kind of all of the different channels. So you train the assistant once based to understand what the customer is requesting. And then based on the channel that they're using or interacting with you through, you use kind of the benefits of that channel to tailor the response. So it could be if you're in the web channel, you're able to pop graphics and different templates to make it easier for them to interact. In the voice channel, you may ask them additional questions. And rather than reading off a full list of accounts to them, just to make it easier and faster. But I think the main reason you want to look at doing this is because it creates a better customer experience for your customers and members. And at the other end, the more you can automate, the less calls that are going to go to live agents. And so therefore, from either a cost save perspective or from a ability to redeploy those agents into more revenue type activities, it just opens up those different opportunities for you.
Thanks, Peter. Gracias. Seguimos ya, tenemos ya algunas preguntas, así que por favor sigan escribiendo sus preguntas para que los hagamos. Solamente vamos a pasar en principio a una conversación o una pregunta a Nadine y pasaremos ya a esta sesión de preguntas. Sigan escribiendo sus preguntas. Nadine, we don't forget you. And I will ask you in this moment, you told us about the benefits and about the implementation, but when do you realize that you need something like this platform? Which was like the big issue? And when do you say, well, I think I have a problem here and I need to solve it? And how was this, the path you go to get core.aa?
You know, it was always something on our roadmap that we wanted to improve technology. And then we had, I don't know if everyone heard of it, a pandemic hit. And so all of a sudden we had these strategic goals expedited because not only was everyone working from home, there was a worker shortage. We needed to be able to really make sure that every single offering that we had was as accessible as possible, no matter where the member is. And as Peter said, it doesn't happen just on our time, right? Financial issues don't happen 9 to 5. And I know I can barely, keep staff in the 9 to 5, let alone trying to have it 24/7. We pretty much decided immediately, right as COVID hit, that we needed to make this our top priority strategic goal. So I think it's easy for financial institutions to say, yep, we'll get there, we'll do that. Well, next year, it's not in the budget, but you don't want to wait until you are going up against the worker shortage or the, a pandemic. You want to make sure that you're ready for the changing times, and they're changing faster and faster.
Perfecto, pues ya tenemos la primera pregunta. Alejandro ya se adelantó un poquito y le empezó a contestar en el chat, pero de todas maneras la voy a hacer porque me parece que es interesante y que todos lo escuchen. Y pregunta Enriqueta Landa, ¿se considera que Core AI puede sustituir la funcionalidad de un IVR, y la voy a decir también en inglés. The first question for Peter, if you also want to answer, it's about if it's considered that core.ai can replace the functionality of an IVR. The first that want to answer, or both, you can answer.
Sure, I can take that. So it absolutely can replace the technology in an IVR. So if you look at most IVR technologies that are out there are either the old press 1 for this, press 2 for that, which is very menu kind of driven, doesn't necessarily give your customers a lot of choice. Or, you know, the next generation of IVR kind of focused on keywords. So, you know, the IVR would say, you can say X, right? So, but that still was 100% menu driven behind the scenes. So unless you had a menu choice for your customer's issue, it didn't really help you. And so with conversational AI, the conversation is no longer linear with the customer. It can go in the direction that the customer needs to make it. And so the customer doesn't migrate down, you know, a series of menus, get to the end and find out all of a sudden, whoops, now I got to go all the way back to the beginning and start over. With conversational AI, the customer just asks the question, and the virtual assistant has been trained with enough information that it can understand the intent, and then hopefully either execute the transaction for the customer, possibly gather that additional information that's needed from the customer to execute the intent. And then the most important thing is a good virtual assistant knows when it doesn't understand something. And so when it doesn't understand, it then, you know, gets the customers or member either to a live agent. If they're available, it could be a live voice agent. We also have the ability to send them a text and deflect them to a live chat agent. Or in the case that it's after hours and there's no agents available, we also have the ability to send or allow them to send a secure message into the bank so the customer can tell the bank what's going on. And then when the back office people get in the next morning, they can then go through those and respond back to the customer. So at least from the customer's standpoint, they feel like, you know, they don't have to pick up the phone first thing in the morning when the bank opens and call them back again.
Thanks,
Si
Peter.
me permites, digo, agregar.
Claro,
Francisco,
claro.
¿no? Perdón que te
Sí.
interrumpa, pero realmente esta pregunta me encanta a mí, porque yo soy un consumidor de los IVRs, ¿no? Y creo que la mayoría de nosotros lo hacemos, ¿no? Cuando marcamos al banco, ¿no? Principalmente, pues tenemos ahí un menú que realmente yo creo que cuando pensamos en marcar al banco siempre decimos como, uy, voy a perder un tiempo aquí, porque realmente es desde que pasas el menú y luego ser atendido. El terror del menú del IVR es si realmente lo que yo estoy buscando está ahí en el menú, o si no, es donde le picas para irte a la gente rápido, porque lo que quieres es una respuesta, ¿no? Entonces, fíjate que nos pasó algo muy curioso en Brasil, porque en Brasil justo nos dijeron que éramos los IVR killers. Veníamos a transformar lo que hoy te ofrece el IVR, ¿no? Con ese menú. Y realmente, si me lo preguntas a mí como usuario, quitándome la camisa de Core, yo te lo digo como usuario, es que si hoy tienes una tecnología que realmente me escuche y con eso me diga o tome acciones o me conecte con las personas correctas, para mí eso ya es satisfacción total. Porque entonces ya mi tiempo en el menú, que voy a perder 2 o 3 minutos en lo que encuentro con quién conectar, y luego ya después conectarme con una gente y llevar otra vez esa llamada, lo que decía Peter, pues realmente ya se traduce en experiencia para mí. Y un factor muy importante, y no sé si a ustedes les pasa, pero yo soy una persona que odia hablar al banco, disculpen todos, ¿no? Pero es porque cuando mi problemática no la encuentro, realmente yo lo que quiero es hablar con una gente, quizás me conectan con el área no correcta, ¿no? A mi problemática. Entonces me pide información para validar que realmente soy un cliente y después decir, bueno, esa problemática no lo resuelves en esta ventanilla, lo resuelves en esta otra. ¿Y qué sucede? Vuelven a preguntarme lo mismo. Y para mí es frustrante, porque dices, oye, ya se lo acaba de decir a tu compañero, tu compañera, pues, o sea, ya vamos a resolver. Eso es lo que queremos transformar. Realmente que la información esté ahí, que si ya sabes quién soy, me identifiques y que me encuentres una solución. Y entonces mi experiencia vaya, en vez de 10 minutos, a 3 minutos, ¿no? Y yo creo que es por eso que pensamos que el sustituir el IBR es más allá de solamente quitar este menú, ¿no? Es toda una experiencia completa.
Perfecto, pues seguimos recibiendo preguntas. La siguiente pregunta, quien quiera responderla, es, ¿se puede incorporar esta inteligencia a un chatbot ya existente? We have more questions and you can answer anyone. It's, can this intelligence can be incorporated into an existing chatbot?
If you guys don't mind, I'll take that one. So we actually had an existing chat right now with our, with our live agents, and it could be incorporated. What we found is that when we did that, we weren't able to take advantage of some of the really awesome capabilities that there was moving to the actual core chatbot that they offer, being that there's, Smart Assist. It coaches our live agents to answer the same way that our artificial intelligent agent would. And that gives you a level of consistency that you might not have, and analytics that you might not have, or reporting that you might not have. So while, yes, it absolutely can be incorporated, it's very functional, it's still seamless. My opinion is that I wish I wouldn't have waited to move to the chatbot that's, developed with the same purpose.
Muy bien.
Otra vez Francisco.
Sí, va tú adelante.
Gracias. Mira, esta pregunta también es muy constante y yo he empezado a interpretarla porque muchas veces veo que ya existe un trabajo previo, ¿no? Y realmente el migrarte a algo nuevo, probablemente dices, qué pesado va a ser migrar todo lo que ya tengo y mejor pues, tratar de utilizar los componentes buenos de tu plataforma con lo que ya tengo. Y te sorprendería lo rápido que es implementar una experiencia conversacional con nosotros. De hecho, puedes tomarte tal cual el flujo que ya tienen hoy. Nosotros le hacemos unos pequeños ajustes y eso lo subes a la plataforma de Conozca. De hecho, si hoy tienes un flujo histórico, ¿no?, de muchas hojas, para nosotros se resume en menos procesos. Entonces, ahí realmente la capacidad de Smartforce es donde entra, ¿no? Este conocimiento de cómo transformar lo que tienes con un flujo a intenciones realmente que tiene nuestra plataforma para resolverlo. Así que yo les diría que si ese es el principal pensamiento de cómo lo migro, créanme que va a ser muy, muy sencillo.
Gracias, Daniel. Next question. Can this platform be implemented only on-premise or also in the cloud? Esta plataforma preguntan si puede ser implementada solo on-premise o también en la nube. ¿Quién quiere responder? Wants to answer.
So I can
yes.
or go ahead, Daniel.
Sure. Do it, Peter.
So our technology is primarily cloud-based, but we do have quite a few customers who want to deploy it on premise as well. So we can do it in the core cloud. We can, which runs on either AWS or we've got it on Azure as well. And if you're using another cloud, we can install it there fairly simply. If you have a private cloud, we can install it in your private cloud. It can run in more of your traditional data center as a normal on-prem installation. And then you also have the ability to do a hybrid, whether you wanted some of the elements that would be in kind of on-prem versus on the cloud, or kind of a hybrid between certain elements in the core cloud and other elements in your private cloud.
Perfecto.
So a lot of different
Thanks, Peter. Cristian Gómez pregunta, ¿cuál puede ser una infraestructura ideal para... Ay, se movió esto. ¿Cuál puede ser una infraestructura ideal para comenzar o para evolucionar a este tipo de proceso automatizado? The question is, which will be an ideal infrastructure to start or to implement this type of automated process? Anyone? El que guste.
Sure, I can take a stab at that. So in order
Thanks.
Like kind of really how to start the process, I think is the question, or is it more about the technology on where to kind of start the process? I wasn't.
It's more about an ideal infrastructure to start or to implement this type.
Okay, so I think that the first thing you really have to do is you have to plan for this. So this is gonna, conversational AI is gonna be different than other forms of self-service. So within your organization, I think that you have to make sure that you have resources that can be dedicated to pulling kind of this new channel together. I think it's important to look at the assistant as, you know, the end state, have it being a self-contained channel, so that if you want to put it on your website and a customer comes to the website, and they ask a question that requires authentication, you can keep them in the assistant, you can authenticate them and not have to transfer them out to either online banking or mobile banking. You know, FAQs are a very easy place to start. So if you think about installing the assistant on your website, and now think of all your different products that customers coming in are going to ask questions about when they're looking for a new product, turn some of those questions actually into FAQs within the assistant, and then allow the assistant to help your customer better navigate your site, and then to open up kind of more accounts. So I think the unauthenticated space is probably the easiest place to start. And then as you start to get the right integrations in place, so then you can start kind of doing kind of more the inquiry type functions that require authentication, and then some of the more transactional or money movement type of transactions as well.
Thanks, Peter. Nadine, I think the next question is for you because of your experience and all that, but they asked us about how long does it take to get an assistant productive? In your experience, how much time it was?
You know, I mean, it was different for each of the channels that we implemented. And the phone took the longest, mainly because there were a lot of intents that had to be rewritten to kind of match how our members are verbally asking us questions versus, you know, typing. It's a lot easier to understand exactly what's being said. So we really were implemented within our website within a few months, and that's including our integration with our core. And then the phones took another couple of months after that. It could have taken longer and it could have taken less time. And I'm saying that because I think that's important. There was a lot of prep work to getting it, you know, in either platform. And the more prep work that you do in terms of monitoring your calls, monitoring the things that your members are asking ahead of time, the more successful it's going to be that first day it's live on the site, or that first day it's on the phones. We had a lot of intents that we were tracking over the course of years. And we were doing it anyways, but we really started closely monitoring it when we knew that this was something we were going to implement. And we knew, you know, the top 5 things that our members call and ask are, you know, a lot of them want to review their balance history. Okay, great. We've got that. Check. Another thing they really want to do is dispute. Okay, we can't do that right away, but let's go ahead and start working on that intent and making sure the foundation is there for that. All right. Next is unlocking home banking. Okay. We got to make sure that that's set and ready. The more prep work and the more tedious, you know, getting into the nitty gritty of the actual questions we did, the better off it was going to be once it was implemented. I'm confident now that we took all of that prep work, that we have a very solid foundation to build and develop into a lot more intense, you know, questions and directives from our members.
Thanks, Nadine. Tenemos más preguntas. ¿Cómo se cobra esta solución? ¿Por licenciamiento, por número de mensajes, etcétera? The next question is, how is this solution charged? Licensing, by number of messages? Anyone that wants to answer?
Creo que en ese yo te puedo apoyar. Nuestra plataforma, dependiendo del escenario, se puede dividir en dos aspectos. Por un lado, si es el tema de voz, nosotros deberíamos considerar un costo por sesión y por minuto, ¿vale? Y en el tema de mensajería, tal cual como chat, simplemente es por sesiones de 30 minutos, y pues simplemente consideramos cuántas sesiones son las que se van a consumir en la conversación. Digo, naturalmente nosotros hacemos este análisis con las empresas y definimos cuál es el mejor escenario, ¿no?
Daniel, déjame preguntarte a ti la siguiente pregunta, ya que te gusta mucho hablar a los bancos. Nos preguntan, ¿esta solución sirve para bancos?
Mira, la solución o nuestra plataforma funciona para cualquier industria, ¿no? Esa es la respuesta. Claro que ya estoy tocando todos los bancos porque, ¿no? Hasta voy y toco directo a la puerta para decirles, no, hagan esto diferente. Pero la respuesta es sí, podemos trabajar en industrias de banca, en telcos, en retail, en temas de incluso por áreas, ¿no? Por ejemplo, esto lo puedo llevar desde el tema de customer experience también, pero en tema de employee experience, donde entonces ya puedes resolver lo que hoy genera bastante dinámica y tarea, por ejemplo, en las mesas de ayuda de TI, ¿no? Donde pues, los usuarios te están diciendo como, oye, quiero una computadora nueva, mi contraseña no funciona, oye, no puedo acceder a esta plataforma. Todo eso lo podemos resolver con esta aplicación. Y en el tema de recursos humanos, por ejemplo, pues las vacaciones, las incidencias, cuándo me pagan. Fíjate que una demo que tenemos muy padre, le decimos, oye, ¿cuándo me van a pagar porque ando roto y pues no sé si llega la quincena, ¿no? Y en esa intención interpreta lo que el usuario nos dice y le da una respuesta. Hay en otros países, por ejemplo, que nos dicen, oye, ando aguja, ¿cuándo pagan? Imagínate, aguja es algo que realmente pues, ni siquiera en México utilizamos. Y nuestra plataforma la vamos adecuando para que realmente pueda interpretar. Así que pues la respuesta aquí en concreto es bancos y cualquier industria o área lo podemos resolver.
Sí, sí, el roto sí lo utilizamos, el aguja no tanto se utiliza.
Exacto.
Nadine, the next question is for you. Enriqueta Landa asks us, do you have to change your operational process?
Not necessarily. For my call center agents, for example, did not really have to change a lot of what they were doing. But now that they are getting less calls, I am expecting more of them, if that makes sense. So now that they're not taking those typical service calls that they're getting, I am having a lot of outbound calling programs to kind of drive some of the promotions that we have going on. So I'm kind of taking my marketing hat that, you know, I used to push promotions in the branches, and now I'm trying to implement it in my call center. So not that their actual operations changed or any processes really changed. We just have more time to, and we want to be productive with that time, right? So they might have some more roles and responsibilities than they may have had in the past.
Thanks, Nadine. La siguiente pregunta nos dicen, ¿el costo total de una implementación de una plataforma conversacional se justifica? ¿Es bueno el ROI? The next question was, is the full cost of a conversational platform implementation justified? Is the ROI good? Anyone?
Sí, si quiere la contesto yo. A ver, realmente hay diferentes formas de verlo. Si lo quieres ver a lo mejor nada más en términos de sustituir a la gente, pues tal vez a lo mejor no, porque los sueldos que realmente tenemos aquí en México llegan a ser muy bajos. Pero si lo ves en términos de servicio, en términos de una venta perdida, en términos de un cliente frustrado, porque como bien comentaban, la ventaja de tener una plataforma conversacional es que la puedes habilitar 24 horas al día y lo atiendes en el momento que quieras. Entonces, un cliente que se siente satisfecho, que es bien atendido y que se les resuelve el problema, es un cliente que no vas a perder y que va a continuar contigo. Entonces, ahí es donde realmente te da los retornos de inversión. Ahora, ¿cuál es el otro tema interesante también? Que tienes que meter diferentes criterios ya en esto. Porque, por ejemplo, si bien los sueldos a lo mejor son muy bajos, ¿cuánto tiempo te lleva a entrenar a una persona para que pueda atender correctamente? Esas guías de implementación que tienen en los contact centers, te evitas todo eso. E incluso la herramienta cuenta con un asistente para los propios operadores del contact center, donde ya puedes incorporar en los flujos conversacionales estas guías y el propio robot puede quedarse escuchando la conversación que está teniendo el humano con el otro humano, ya que pasa con un agente, y le puede estar proponiendo qué cosas debe de responder con esa inteligencia. Entonces, definitivamente el ROI se da. Hay que contemplar todos los aspectos que implican el cómo lo quieres analizar, pero definitivamente el ROI se da y hay que nada más contemplar cuánto te cuesta un cliente perdido, por ejemplo, ¿no?
Perfecto, muchas gracias. The next question is, can we see or can you make a demo customized to a certain type of industry?
Sí, bueno, si me permiten, en ese sentido,
Sí, claro.
Podemos, realmente la plataforma nuevamente es agnóstica al tema de industria. Yo creo que más bien es enfocada al tipo de caso que vamos a utilizar. Y a la verdad es que nosotros entendemos que para interpretar correctamente cómo funciona nuestra plataforma hay que mostrarla. Entonces, en ese caso, la respuesta es sí, podemos desarrollar en conjunto con Smartforce ejercicios que nos ayuden a justificar el uso correcto de nuestra plataforma.
Perfecto. Nos pregunta Jonathan Hernández, ¿cuál es el porcentaje de certeza a la hora de elegir la mejor intención del usuario de la herramienta? The next question is, what is the percentage of the certainty when choosing the best intention of the user of the tool?
Si quieren, hay un tema interesante. La herramienta, como bien comentaba Daniel, tiene 3 motores y lo que hacen esos motores es que identifica a través de esos motores la intención del usuario. Cuando encuentra 2 posibles alternativas o 3, lo que hace es que le presenta las alternativas al usuario. Entonces, a ver, lo que me quieres decir, pides, por ejemplo, oye, quiero restablecer un password. Entonces, a lo mejor tiene restablecer password de tarjeta, restablecer password telefónico, restablecer password de la cuenta. Y entonces, si no logra determinar, lo que hace es que dice, oye, a ver, ¿te puedo ayudar a restablecer tu password de la tarjeta, de la cuenta o de tu banca telefónica? ¿Para cuál quieres el servicio? Entonces, lo que hace es, si no logra resolver las ambigüedades, te presenta las opciones con las cuales se puede dar. Entonces, también eso reduce el tema de la frustración del usuario, porque finalmente la herramienta dice, ok, hay 3 posibles soluciones o 2 posibles soluciones y se las presenta para que el usuario sea un poco más específico y poderlo canalizar a la solución adecuada.
Que creo que va junto con la segunda parte de esta pregunta, que es, ¿qué pasa cuando la herramienta no elige la mejor intención?
Un poco lo que comentaba, o sea, realmente la herramienta, si no lo puede determinar, busca las opciones y te las presenta para que ya seas un poco más específico y entonces poder ir a atender más específicamente la petición que tienes.
Daniel, vi que abriste tu micrófono.
Sí,
Eso.
nada más quería complementar lo que dice Alex, porque realmente es un factor muy, muy, muy importante. Nosotros nuestra plataforma no la desarrollas bajo flujos, ¿vale? O sea, no, digamos, al usuario no lo obligamos a ir a una continuidad de un proceso y si se sale de ese proceso, entonces no encuentra una respuesta. Lo que realmente le hacemos como plataforma es interpretar lo que el usuario nos está diciendo y con eso entregarle una respuesta, ya sea que sea una sola o diferentes opciones, como en el modelo, en el caso que nos planteó Alejandro. Eso es lo que realmente son diferenciadores de nuestra plataforma a ser conversacional, ¿vale? Es como si ahorita en este momento te digo, Francisco, oye, Francisco, dime 3 lugares para ir a comer, ¿no? No me vas a decir, lo primero que quizás me vas a preguntar es, oye, pues, ¿qué te gusta comer? ¿No? O sea, ¿te gusta la comida italiana, mexicana? ¿Qué opciones te gustaría antes de recomendarte lugares? Y me empiezas a sugerir y después te digo, no, ¿sabes qué? Me arrepentí, no quiero ir a comer, mejor dime bares donde pueda ir a tomar. Entonces, si me salgo de ese flujo en un chatbot tradicional, tu respuesta sería, no entiendo, porque ya estábamos en un proceso. En este tipo de experiencia conversacional es más de, ok, bueno, ya no quieres restaurantes, quieres bares. ¿Qué tipo de bares te gusta? ¿No? Y es así como realmente somos más asertivos en la respuesta, ¿no? Que justo era por ahí la pregunta.
Sí, creo que yo también te respondería más fácil la segunda que la primera, pero ese es otro tema. Perdón, Enriqueta, me salté 2 preguntas porque se me estaba moviendo, pero las retomo porque todavía tenemos tiempo. Muchas gracias a todos por mandar sus preguntas. Enriqueta Landa pregunta, ¿qué áreas necesito involucrar en mi empresa para una implementación de este tipo? And the next question is, what areas do I need to involve in my company for an implementation of this type?
The more people you involve, the better off the bat. I really had my call center involved in looking at some of the intent and kind of giving the best possible response so that it's consistent with exactly what we're saying. We really bring in your IT team ahead of time as well. There are going to be some discussions that you need in terms of how are we going to get it on the phone. And that's something that I know I could have done better in terms of including them sooner. And I think to really get the buy-in from our staff and our operations team was a really big deal to do, right? Because a lot of people will go into the branches and it eases them going into that branch and taking the teller's time to answer a bunch of questions, just as much as it helps our call center. So to really get the buy-in, we ended up doing a couple of Q&A sessions where we demoed the products before we went live. And not that they necessarily had to learn anything new, but to get them excited about it ahead of time, that's your entire staff. You got to make sure everybody's on board.
Thanks, Nadine. Tenemos una pregunta más y con esto creo que ya podríamos empezar a cerrar un poco. ¿Se puede incorporar esta plataforma con mis sistemas de back office, un CRM, un ERP? ¿Es complicado? Can this platform be incorporated with my CRM, ERP, all the back office systems? It's complicated?
I can take that. Yeah, the answer is yeah, absolutely. So it depends on how you want to incorporate into, like, for example, your CRM. It can either be used as that source of information for pulling information out on a customer, or it can be used in some instances for writing notes on the customer's accounts and triggering different things within the CRM. The other thing I would say is you've got to look at the assistant itself does really two things. It says, what is the customer looking for? So it's identifying an intent. And then it says, now that I understand this intent, what other information do I have to get from that customer? And then once it has this, we use all of your existing APIs, your existing processes. So you're not really building out any new kind of process. So your transfer funds works exactly the way the transfer funds works today. We just call the API and we feed the information in the same way as if they had been in online banking and they had selected their from account, their to account, the amount, and the date. So the assistant, what really kind of works with this is, because it leverages all your existing processes, you don't have to worry about a bunch of new compliance items or regulatory, other than the actual conversation, right? So making sure that the assistant is asking the right information, disclosing it, but then your APIs are already compliant and are already, in good shape from a regulatory standpoint. So any of your existing processes, as long as there's an API available to feed it, will work exactly the way they work today.
We are getting to the end of this session, but I would like to ask you to anyone, if you want to add something else, something really, really important, something that we haven't said. Bueno, es así como estaremos llegando ya al final de esta sesión. Agradecerles a todos ustedes por haber participado con nosotros en este IT Master Sessions, invitarlos a que estén pendientes de unas sesiones más y agradecerles, bueno, pues también a nuestros invitados de hoy, a Nadine Hohnke, Marketing Manager at Public Service de Credit Union, a Alejandro Castrejón, socio fundador de SmartForce, a Daniel García, gerente de canales para América Latina de SmartForce, y a Peter Birby, VP Product Management Financial Services at Core.ai. Thanks to all y gracias a todos ustedes por acostar con nosotros en esta interesante sesión que ha terminado. Muchas gracias y nos vemos luego. Adiós.
Adiós.
Thank you.